We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grooming and Not the Good Kind with Ash and Peggy. Miss Peggie Brott. I will introduce you in a second.
Okay.
Just want to say hi to Alicia and Sophia and
Alicia.
Poe on the Go, or Poet
Hi,
from
Poet.
a Poet. Who's Poe on the Go?
His name is John. He's a different guy.
That's a different guy.
Yep.
From a Poet. I'm sorry, from a Poet. I mean,
Poet's
it says your
Brian.
name right there. It was just like a couple poets, And so yeah, I want to give you a little update, Peggy.
Okay.
So you guys, I have a podcast called That's So Fcked Up. I am trying to really, really adhere by YouTube's rules. So it's actually what it says in the background. But yeah, that is kind of my main Jimmy Jam. That's what I've been doing for 3.5 years. I've done almost 400 episodes, and a good quarter or third of them are on pardon me, I felt like I had a wheeze going on, are on cults or coercive groups or, high control groups, any, sororities, the troubled teen industry, MLMs, you name it, we're talking about it. Hi, Roxy and Tampa B. Thank you for subbing to my channel, Roxy. Everybody, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.
Yep.
Oh my God, I'm so YouTube now. So I've been doing the podcast. I've been doing the podcast for about 3.5 years, and I've tried Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and I did a dance, and I've done this stuff, Peggy, and it doesn't seem to work there. Yeah. That's okay. I don't know, but that's funny because I'm actually talking about complex trauma later today. And one of the signs is like forgetting what the fuck you're, damn it, already ruined it. 2.5 minutes in. Oh, no. It's okay. I'm not monetized anyways yet. So they can't like demonetize this video, right?
No.
Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know, my main jam is my podcast. It's called That's So Fcked Up, whatever, I already fucked it up. It's about cults, murder, and other generally fucked up stuff. I've tried all the other social media platforms. I had not tried YouTube because it's scared me. I didn't know that you could go live. I thought you had to full on learn video editing, which I'll be honest, I have no intention of doing. I have an amazing team of researchers and editors that help me. So if anybody is really interested, then we might do edited videos. But mostly the plan here is to go live.
Makes sense.
And I've found it really cool so far because, like, hello, you guys. Also want to say hi to From a Poet. I'm saying it right this time.
Hi, Steve.
Love it. Denver, Steve-O, Pup Groomer. Oh, we got a lot of people from
Barb.
From
Thank
Maryland.
You, Barb. Yes, I am in focus.
Thanks, you guys, so much for coming over from Maryland stream. We love Maryland. I met Maryland through Peggy, actually. Hi, Maryland. So I was just saying that, my podcast is kind of my main jam, but I was very inspired, actually, by Maryland, this chick that a lot of you guys were just watching, to start doing more lives because she showed me that they were pretty easy and a really cool way to be able to interact with the community. With podcasting, the feedback is very not instantaneous. But yeah. And even then, like, reviews are hard to get because I guess it's hard to use Apple. And so this is like such a cool way for me to get to engage with the audience. So I want to tell you guys some things we're going to be doing on this channel. I'm going to be recording my podcast episodes with my co-host. So what we're going to do with those is it's going to be us recording the podcast live. which is pretty cool. It's actually something I've wanted to do for a long time. Hi, Witness. Thanks so much for coming. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, but like I said, I've been pretty scared of the editing. So we are going to do the podcast live, and then there will be an edited, polished, curated version on the podcast feed, because I realize that different mediums are different jams. Some people like video, some people like audio, some people like the kind of hecticness of the lives because they can be here and participate. And then I'm sure there's some people that see it and are like, I'm not watching 2.5 hours. So that's another thing, is we're going to try to keep them to about 1 hour and 20 minutes, just so that they don't seem, I'm thinking from my point of view. And if I saw a 2.5 hour video, I'd be like, no, not dog.
Yeah.
So far on the channel, I've talked about recovery and healing from abuse and coercion with Shanny Pants. She has a podcast and a YouTube channel, big Instagram. Yesterday, no, I don't know what days happened. A couple days ago, I talked to Meg from Unsilenced about the troubled teen industry. That was one of my favorite interviews so far. Marilyn brought me onto her show first, actually. Well, actually, some of you might know I've been doing a segment with Apostate Alex for quite a while. Ash and Alex do Scientology. And then Marilyn was the first person who wanted to hear my AA story, which I really appreciated, because I've reached out to a few people and asked if they wanted to hear about how AA is kind of culty. And, I don't know why I didn't just cover it on my own show. I just I don't think to interview my fucking self,
Right.
And so that was super awesome. And that was, the first thing that I did. And then we're doing grooming with Peggy. And actually this afternoon, I'm starting, because I'm a psycho, I'm starting a little segment called Healing from Complex Trauma with Ash. And that's going to be kind of like a solo diary segment. And I strongly recommend that anybody who loves Marilyn streams and loves that kind of support and feedback from the host and the other people in the chat, I think that's going to be a really cool one. Because I experience symptoms of complex trauma every single day. Yesterday, I woke up in the morning with a panic attack. Those are always fun.
Oh, no.
I just wake from sleep with a panic attack. And I'm going to therapy tomorrow because I love therapy and I take medication. And I just want to talk about the things that I'm doing to try to help myself through my recovery journey and hopefully help some other people, because I know through the podcast that people have been appreciative of me being open about my own experiences with addiction and trauma and mental health. I have been open about my sexual assaults, but I've never told those stories. And that's because that's my story. They're my stories, and it's my right to tell them when I want to. And that goes for all sexual assault survivors.
Absolutely.
Survivors of any kind.
Abuse.
You don't ever have to tell your fucking story if you don't want to.
Right.
It's been years, and I'm not ready to talk about it. So, I mean, also, quickly, before we get into it, some other things that I'm going to be doing. And I'm really liking YouTube because it gives me a chance to do all this stuff that I don't have time or space for on the podcast. I'm going to be doing recent culty news. Like, I don't know if y'all know about Ramona Digital, the QAnon Queen of Canada, but she was just gifted a fucking compound in the middle of a small Canadian town with only like 100 people. It's a full-on Bhagwan Shree Rajneesh wild country situation all over again, you guys. Also, if you're not following Twin Flames, cuckoo bananas. I watch a ton of documentaries, so I want to talk about them.
Yep.
United States of Scamerica. I want to talk about scams, harlots and Jezebels. I still want to keep talking about slut shaming, and that can include, you know, purity culture, conversion therapy, being in a fucking sorority, being a sexual assault victim and getting asked what the fuck you were wearing and all that stuff.
Yes.
Coercion and control and relationships with narcissists, interviews with experts on healing from trauma and abuse. And a lot of what I want to do is, you know, when I'm interviewing people that have been in coercive groups, is finding the through lines of what makes a coercive group. Because, you know, we call TSFU, That's So Fucked Up. We call That's So Fucked Up. We call us a cult. But we're the most benevolent cult. We're all just like, yay, mental health, and we're here to support each other.
We're a supportive cult. Yeah.
Like, we might go on trips together and try to get matching tattoos and stuff, you know. And like, I might be somewhat of an authoritarian leader once in a while, but you know, we're culty, but on the good end of the spectrum.
Very supportive of each other.
Yes. And then you have Scientology and the, you know, Pentecostal cult that Marilyn was in. And so many people have, not to diminish your story at all, Marilyn, but that's just such a widespread phenomenon, is spiritual abuse, you know. And we'll be talking more to Catherine Spearing, who is the founder and CEO of Tears of Eden, which is a nonprofit organization that serves the survivors of spiritual abuse. And she also has a podcast called Uncertain. And I'm actually in the process of joining her board. So I'm super excited to get more into depth about that. So if any or all of that sounds cool to you guys, then please stay tuned, because we've got a lot coming up. We did have some some highs that I wanted to address. Roxy says, lives are great, very organic. That's how I feel. I love how organic it is. Witness says, good morning.
Hi,
hello, but yeah, good morning for me, at least.
Yes. I'm on the West Coast, so it is very early for me.
And they also said, behind the scenes, I like it. It's cool. Yeah, I'm very excited to share a bit more of me with you guys, because I have the podcast and I love it. But also, this is, I feel like, my little Wild West over here on YouTube. You guys, that's good morning, Sophia. A lot of you guys have said, sorry you have to deal with that. Yeah, you guys, waking up to a panic attack is never fun, but I so appreciate y'all, you know, like, this is, I go to Marilyn streams and it's like therapy, and I come to these, and now I'm going to do my own streams because I need more therapy aside from the hour that I'm going to tomorrow. So that's me, Ashley Love Richards, host of That's So Fucked Up, the podcast. And when YouTube lets me, I'm going to change the name of the channel back to its original name, which was That's So Fucked Up. But it's going to be That's So Fucked Up Live. So it's a little different. And I'll change the handle to that too. But if you guys are already subscribed, then that won't matter. So make sure to subscribe. Alicia, I was doing 2 hours a week, but after 2 years of avoiding talking about my sexual assaults, my therapist thought, I think you might be using the 2 hours as a cushion. So yeah, we're down. I got avoiding parts that are real good at doing their job.
Yeah.
And yes, please hit the subscribe button, you guys, and make sure to subscribe to Marilyn too. So Peggie, can you tell us who you are, pardon me, tell us who you are, why you know me, and what we're talking about today.
All right. So my name is Peggie, and I am one of the researchers on that So Fcked Up. So I work closely with both Ash and her co-host Fallon, which Fallon will be starting pretty soon doing the lives, and you guys will absolutely love her. And I got into all
this Friday.
Friday. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody's gonna love Fallon. She's amazing. And cool. I got into this because I do come from an abusive background. And like Ash said, like there are certain things that I'm not going to talk about. There are certain parts of my past that I don't talk about publicly. The people who I feel need to know, you know what I mean? But there are parts of my past that not only am I comfortable talking about, but it's going to be, I hope, beneficial to other people. And one of them is grooming. And so that's why when Ash asked in our Discord if anybody had ideas for shows, right away I was like, yes, grooming, because it's something that I feel isn't quite talked about enough. Whereas we're talking about like sexual assault more often now. We're talking about, there's the Me Too movement, but the actual grooming that takes place before a lot of these assaults happen is, I think equally as important, so that everybody can understand, what it looks like, how these people are getting into these, people's lives in the first place. It's not just, it's the coercive control. It's not just, hey, they snatched somebody up off the street one day and that person was so dumb they believed everything the guy said, You're still on mute, girl.
I said, although that narrative is very popular.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because I think that a really big misconception about grooming is that it's always something that is being done to children for a sexual reason, which is absolutely not the case.
Right.
Every member who is in a every person who was a member of a coercive group was fucking groomed into that group.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk about this.
Yeah. For Ash's Patreon, which if you love Ash, I would definitely go look at the Patreon because there are a bunch of exclusive episodes that you can find there. We also have a book club for Patreon members. And one of the books that we read earlier this year was called The Manhattan Cult. And the guy who wrote it, Spencer Schneider, right?
Yeah, and I think that he'll come on here to talk to us too.
That would be fantastic. He was great to talk to. He actually in his book described the process that they did to recruit, and it was a grooming session. It wasn't, like I said, just walk up to this guy and say, hey, come to this really cool cult. They groomed Spencer for a while. And then
their process was crazy.
It was. In the book, Spencer describes how then he became a recruiter and he learned how to do it. And he was like, oh, that's what they were doing to me. Okay. So none of that was real.
And it's months long.
Yeah.
This of you have to build a friendship, and then you have to just one day slip it into the convo that you're a part of magic school or something. I don't know. It had a crazy name. It was just called school.
It was just the school. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is actually kind of genius in its simplicity. You guys, I just threw up. Oh God. I gotta stop saying that. I just put I didn't throw up. I put the hashtag I got out up on the screen because Peggie mentioned the hashtag Me Too movement. Hashtag I got out is a hashtag movement mostly on Instagram, where if you are a cult survivor or an advocate, expert, whatever, and you hashtag I got out, it's kind of like a meeting place for people that come from all different backgrounds of different kinds of coercive groups.
Right.
So yeah, that's cool.
It's another great group to be a part of, for sure. Very supportive.
Yeah.
So I actually happened to take a course on grooming not too long ago for one of my several jobs. And while I was taking this course, things started to come flooding back. It's not that I've forgotten my experience necessarily, but putting words to it was kind of, like a aha moment, like, okay, that's what it is.
This is ringing bells.
Exactly. So I did a little bit of research, and I'm sorry, I'm going to look down for a minute because this is my son's setup, and it is set up for a person much taller than I. But I did want to bring up a couple points that I think are really important. One of them is there are many excuses for people who don't report when they see grooming. And by report, I mean, if you're a mandated reporter, if you're at a church, if you're at a school, if you're a sports coach, if you're a theater person, any place where you can be around kids, which I'm talking about right now, more so kids, is you're going to, if you're not a mandated reporter, you still ethically, I think, kind of have that responsibility to tell somebody what you see. But the excuses for not telling anybody what you see are that you're going to justify it. So you're going to say, oh, I saw both of the people were laughing, this guy, he was with this teenage girl, but they were both laughing, and he was tickling her, and it looked like they were having fun. So in your mind, you're just going to kind of
no tickling in public.
Oh God.
Between older men. And
tickling is gross. Very gross.
It's actually a form of torture too.
I know.
Tickle torture.
I know people. I'm not really ticklish, but I know people who are very ticklish. That is literal torture. Yeah. You also, if you're going to justify it, you're going to think well, no one else has had problems with that person. Maybe he's the greatest sports coach that has ever been, and no one else is going to have problems with that person. When I was in high school, there was a coach / PE teacher who was definitely grooming kids, both boys and girls. And the reason why no one ever, I think for 10 years, did anything about it was because everybody kept saying but he's such a good guy. But, outside of this, he's such a good guy. I can't imagine him doing something like that. And so all of these people collectively not turning this guy in for a decade, finally something was done about it. But it took a long time. And the female sports coach / PE teacher who finally turned him in, she got her life ruined. I mean, absolutely ruined for turning this guy in.
Okay, can we stop attacking the victims and defending the perpetrators? I fucking was livid yesterday because I met someone who, knows a good deal about trafficking. And when they've spoken about it, they told me, be careful calling Tim Ballard out. Because if anybody doesn't know Tim Ballard, that movie this summer, The Sound of Freedom, which me and Peggy have been down rabbit holes about. We're going to be talking about that. Tim Ballard, The Sound of Freedom was made after him, and he was a part of the Mormon Church. And then after The Sound of Freedom came out, it found out that Tim Ballard, who was working for Operation Underground Railroad, was actually legitimately trafficking women. And so was the producer of the movie, not trafficking women, but severely harassing them in the least. And then the Mormon Church legitimately was like, yeah, we're done, cut ties. And apparently this person went on YouTube for an interview and talked about Tim Ballard, and people were like, oh, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, how, why? And this will come, I will have some shit to say about grooming too, because it's more often than not that the perpetrators get stood up for and the victims get fucking rocks thrown at them.
And that is my childhood experience.
Yep. So this was at your school.
So yeah, that one's not even my experience personally, but it was always rumored that this coach was doing things like bringing the boys into his office and showing them porn. I guess he even had like some type of Playboy calendar or up something like that in his. And so this was in the mid 90s. I graduated high school in 96, and then I think maybe 2 or 3 years later he finally got taken down by this female coach. But I remember it was on the news in our area, and she was just trashed all over the place about finally coming forward with this. So it had to have taken her so much courage to finally
everybody
come
except
forward.
For the cool people watching and listening. Right?
Yeah. Oh my God. And the 90s, like I try to, this is one thing I learned with my therapist a couple of years ago, is I try to excuse things away and go, oh, that was just how the 80s were. Oh, that's just how the 90s were. And I like to just try to like excuse stuff away like that. And so
you're like, I'll just blame it on a whole fucking decade.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, really quick, sorry to interrupt. Barb said, I defend my abuser. He didn't mean it and I was wrong. No, ever. No. They can, your abuser can not mean to hurt you. But you are never fucking wrong as the victim or survivor. So like,
so sorry, Barb.
Yeah. Like Jennifer said, never defend your abusers. Fuck them. And Lovett says grooming happens before, during, and after, which is a really good point. And I think that we will definitely be touching on this during today's talk. And also asked has anyone watched Undercover Underage? No, but
I haven't even heard of it.
Like it's probably disturbing.
Is that a documentary probably?
Yeah, let us know what that is. No. That's
Barb.
Okay, so Barbara, let me tell you why I don't tell my Barb. Sorry, I don't know if it's Barbara. Let me tell you why I don't tell my sexual assault stories publicly. They were like technically my fault if you want to come from that mentality. One would be like, well, you chose to be there. Both situations I put myself in. Does that mean I deserve to get raped? Absolutely not. Like I chose to be there, but I didn't at all deserve what happened to me, and neither did you. And no victim, or like I said, survivor. I think it's really up to people as to what they want to identify as. But it's never. and that's exactly what's wrong, is that we as a society have been conditioned to blame the abused
Always.
Versus the abuser. Mm-hmm. The other day I did a live stream with Marilyn, and hard time saying it now. Like, my mom is my primary abuser, and I apologized to her on the stream. I was like, if you're watching, like, I'm sorry. I just have to tell my truth, because, like, I know she stalks me on media because I don't talk to her. That's a pretty toxic relationship. I love my mother, but she's an alcoholic and probably a narcissist, and seems to not be able to help herself. See, oh my God, I'm defending her. Like, I'm like, it seems like she can't help herself but be abusive. Yeah. You guys, hard. It's so fucking rough, but like, it's not our fault. It's not our fault.
Nope, not at all.
Oh God.
I know. Okay. I know. Well, when I get into my story a little bit, you'll see a little bit more about how that in particular affected me, you know.
Yeah.
But I did want to bring up another point about why people might not report, is because they're scared to. So if, say, you're like a school teacher, or you're at church and you see some grooming happening, you're going to be scared because you're going to think everyone's going to hate me. I'm going to lose my job. You know, there's all these things that go through your brain that are reasons why not to do it. And fear is definitely going to play a factor in that. It's like, what if he didn't actually do it? Or what if, I say he a lot, and I apologize for that because I know women groom also. What if they didn't mean to do it? What if I saw something wrong? You know, and then you're going to be scared. Like, well, this person's going to hate me forever. And then everybody else loves him, so everyone's going to hate me forever for doing this. Mm-hmm. And there's all of those things that go through your brain, and they like override that gut instinct that we have. You know, we're like, yeah, that looks really wrong. I think I need to tell somebody I saw that. And then your brain's just going to go through this whole cycle. You're going to justify it. You're going to deny it. You're going to be scared. And your gut is going to be going like, hello, like I said, something's wrong. And your brain's like, but there's like 100 reasons why this could be happening right
now. Yeah, and I think that sad and kind of discouraging part is that all the things that go through your mind about why you shouldn't do it. I mean, I feel like I can confidently say that I would immediately say something, but it's hard to say what you would do when you're in a before you're actually in a situation, you know? And like you said, that woman's life got ruined for whatever. This survivor that I spoke to recently, their life, you know, they've been devastated for weeks now because they had the audacity to call Tim Ballard what he is. And, you know, I'm actually super surprised that Jared Leto's cult, The Echelon, didn't come after me when I was like going after Jared Leto pretty hard for a while. But like when we started talking about MLMs, we got bad reviews that are like, Ashley thinks everything is a cult and she runs on her feelings, not facts. And I was like, listen, I do run on my feelings, but I also run on facts. Okay. Yeah, no. And somebody was like, you know, the amount of amazing things that Amway has done for my town and fucking Michigan or whatever. It's like, how dare you? It's like, okay, they're also like an evangelical fucking prosperity preaching, like fucking controlling, will bankrupt you type of cult group. Yeah. So Let's talk. Let's hit a few of the
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to. I see some good comments coming out here.
Yeah. Ooh. Often they peel us from our own self and identity. We become a shell of a person and we don't think we deserve more, so we stay. Yeah, somebody said the devil you know is easier or whatever, better, whatever, safer than the devil you don't know, right? Sophia said it's hard to not soften the necessary blow when talking about the offender. Yeah, Marilyn has talked about how me and Marilyn have both talked about how we can easily go off on a troll on internet and be like, I will wreck your life. Because people are mean sometimes. But she has, until recently, like had a hard time saying Marlene's name or was initially still nice to her. You know, it's like wild how the manipulation runs deep. Marilyn says it took a long time for me to come to grips with my childhood sexual assault because it wasn't as bad as what happens to others. I now know that I was being groomed and desensitized by a monster. Yeah, it's so hard not to compare trauma.
I do that. I do that way too much.
I'd be like, oh, well, it's not like I went through this. Alicia says we have a biological need to belong and be part of groups, tribes, whatever. It's how we've survived. To be on your own can be equal to the fear of dying. Absolutely true. Right. Back in the day, like the caveman day, you know, it was like either survive together or die alone type of deal, you know? And that's why people join churches and join cults and join MLMs. And, you know, it's because they want community. They want friends. They want belonging. And that
absolutely
makes so much sense, you know?
Yeah. I move around a lot because my husband's in the Army. So we move every 2 to 3 years, sometimes every year. And everywhere I go, like I'm always trying to fit in with something. Like I'm always trying to find a group and fit in somewhere. Most of my actual close friends either live in another state than I do right now, or they're right here in this box.
This is where most of mine live too. It's right here. Hi guys, you're my friends.
It's hard as an adult to go out there and be like, hey, could I join your group? You know?
Yeah. And actually something when I was in AA that I thought, and I mean, this is not a bad thing, but I was like, well, because I'm in AA, anywhere I go, I automatically have a group of friends. And I'm sure that's how you would feel if you were a part of a religion. Oh, well, you know, I'll go to the church there and like I'll meet friends. Exactly. So it's like comforting to have that cushion.
Yep.
From a poet said, I spent 10 years in an abusive marriage. I ignored a lot of red flags, couldn't think I could do any better. Took my friend getting cancer to get out of this situation. Thank you for sharing that, poet. And
I'm so sorry.
So sorry. I really appreciate that though, because something I really want to talk about on this channel too is men and boys being abused.
Yeah.
There is wow, you think women have a stigma around getting sexually assaulted? Men who get abused or groomed or molested or raped, I mean, even nowadays, they often get called homo and gay and all like derogatory, awful things for being a victim of something. I'm watching Scouts Honor right now about the Boy Scouts of America on Netflix. What a fucking shit show of an organization. At least 82,000 men have come forward and said that they were abused.
Insane.
And when you think about the statistics of how many people actually come forward, think about how many more it is actually.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then I know, you know, other people get sent to conversion camps, but I would love to talk to a man who's got sent to a conversion camp because like in religion, I know, God forbid you're gay in any way, not in all religions. Sorry. I know that there are plenty of churches that are LGBTQ friendly, and sorry, that was like an overstatement.
Right.
Although it does say in the Bible, whatever. Well, let me finish what I was gonna say. It does say in the Bible that like a man or woman who lays with one another will surely be sent to hell. But I don't think it was because they were afraid of homosexuality. I think it's because the world was so about procreating at that time, you know, like God kept flooding and smiting everybody. So they had to like keep rebuilding society. That's my only point.
Yeah, come on, God.
But I would love to talk to a man who got sent to a conversion camp, because if anybody knows about the YouTube channel Girl Defined, it's like these two fundamentalist Christian girls, and there are rumors that one of their husbands got sent to a conversion camp, and it's really sad. I feel really bad for this guy. He seems like he's being used as a total fucking prop for dumb life. And yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if that rumor was true, because he looks so uncomfortable being affectionate with her. Poet, you're getting a lot of support here in the chat. Marlene Sweeney. Marlene is a troll. Marlene Sweeney. Oh, also, you guys, you know, we are identifying often on this channel as what kind of slut we are. What kind of slut are you today, Peggy?
Oh, man. A tired slut.
All right. I'm a bimbo.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's also like a bread company, I believe, in Mexico.
Yes. Bimbo bread.
Yeah. So, Witness says, love it. It is an important case and related to the Catholic sexual assaults case and the Scientology arbitration legal suits right now. I missed what you said. Love it. But, fuck the Boy Scouts. My friend is a part of the class action suit against them.
Oh, nice.
I hope that he gets the justice he deserves. Marilyn says men can be victims also. And Jennifer said, yep, men need a safe space too. Absolutely agree with those things.
Know, there's the flip side of the men and boys being abused is if it's by a woman, then everybody's going to say, well, you should have enjoyed that. Like,
oh yeah. If like the Mrs. Robinson situation, where like a 15-year-old gets fucked by a 40-year-old and everybody's like,
yeah. Like,
all right.
Enjoyed that. Like, that was great.
That's right.
I'm so jealous.
Denver Stevo, what's up? What's up, Stevo? Said, I'm working on a doc about the Boy Scouts right now. You guys making documentaries out there is like wild. Wow. Good for you guys.
That's awesome,
as a member of that group, I was shocked how close to me and abuse and grooming actually was. I'm so glad that it sounds like you didn't fall prey to. I think you said in the beginning, Peggy, any organization that has to do with helping kids is going to attract predators inevitably.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Sophia said, the interesting dissonance of homophobic churches. It's wrong unless it's not consensual and would make the church look bad. Then give him a new round of unsuspecting victims. Yeah, like I think Sophia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're referring to the Catholic Church, because I saw somebody else refer above to that. If you're Catholic and that's your jam and it makes you happy, awesome. As long as you're not shoving it down my throat or like hurting anybody else, I don't care what you do. But this is what is fucked, because this happened in the Boy Scouts and the Catholic Church, is the abusers don't get kicked out. They get moved around.
Yeah.
Why? All right, Jennifer, we've got a covert slut, Marilyn's a Funda-lesque slut.
Ooh.
Love it. I love it.
She says a combo of fundy and burlesque. Oh, funny.
Bye, Witness. Thanks for coming.
Bye, Witness. Thank you.
Yeah, so Peggie, why don't you continue a bit with some of the stuff you had researched and wanted to talk about?
So I also wanted to talk about what you can observe as the actual like boundary breaking grooming behavior. So, what when I was writing my notes, I called it a perpetrator. So like what the perpetrator is doing to these, again, like if it's children and any type of school, church, sports, theater, I've heard of it, scouts, I've heard of it all. I've heard of kids getting abused in all of that.
Oh, gymnastics? Rampant.
Oh my gosh. That's just one of the worst.
I actually got into a debate with somebody the other day about like fuck the Boy Scouts, and then they were like, okay, but is it then also like fuck high school football and fuck girls gymnastics? And I was just like, I don't know, you're questioning me right now, and fuck it all. I don't know, fuck it. Like,
I know it is so hard. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So what can people look for as like grooming behavior?
So a couple things that I had jotted down were, I think one of the most obvious things is the touching. So it's just the unnecessary touching. When I'm around kids, I may put a hand on their back. I'll soothe kids. I'll give them a hug if they want a hug, and I usually try to make sure it's our little side hugs. You know. And the school I work at right now is really little kids, and so they always want attention and hugs, and they want to hold my hand, and I just work at it the best to make sure that it's appropriate. But there are people who just come up to people and just randomly massage shoulders, play with their hair.
Gross.
Put their hand on their back. The one thing, putting your hands anywhere on a person who didn't give you permission is not okay. They do the small of the back thing, like leading you because they think that's polite, and other people are going to go, oh, that person's so polite, and it's like, no, that is an absolute sign, that is also like a control sign where they either grab your elbow or put the hand on the small of your back. That's also like a control thing. There's one case that I learned about where a teacher was actually painting a little girl's toenails for her. And because all of the scenarios that we had were real life scenarios. And one teacher was saying that like one day she walked into this room and there was a male teacher painting a little girl's toenails. And she was just like, what do I do with this? Like,
because it like seems, even though it doesn't, kind of like innocuous.
Right.
Oh, it was a pedicure. Yeah. It's like, no, you should not be touching them.
No, like, don't take your shoes and socks off for people. Don't show your feet to people.
No, and if you are,
unless you have OnlyFans and you're making money off of it.
Get paid for those feet pics, okay?
Exactly.
So I just found this on nspcc.org.uk. It says the relationship a groomer builds can take different forms: a romantic relationship, a mentor, an authority figure, a dominant and persistent figure. Children can be groomed online through social media networks, text message and messaging app like WhatsApp. WhatsApp is fucked. Email, text, voice, and video chats, online games, like fucked up shit,
Yeah.
Online or in person, groomers can use tactics like pretending to be younger, giving advice or showing understanding, buying gifts, giving extra attention, taking them on trips, outings, or holidays. Peggy, you asked me last night if I remember Jan's story, Jan Broberg.
Yeah, Jan Broberg.
And I'm like, bitch, that shit is stamped into my mind forever. That is like, B didn't pretend to be younger, but B is Robert Berchtold, Jan Broberg's abuser.
Right. He pretended to be
an alien.
He pretended to be like the cool dad down the street, though, like where everybody loved him. You know, everybody got to come to his house and eat food and play on the trampoline, and like his was the fun house. So he was presenting himself as like the cool dad, like, you know,
never trust the uncle, like, or you know, you guys like creepy uncle. And I think I've touched. Oh, I would love to have Jan on.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
If Jan wants to come talk to us, that would be amazing. Something I admire about Jan, because I sure as shit couldn't do it, is that she has forgiven her parents.
Yeah.
And you know, you guys, forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person.
Yep.
But woo, I like to hang on to stuff. Yeah.
And she does very strongly say that the only person who acted wrongly in that case was Berchtold. You know, she says like, you know, obviously she didn't do anything wrong. In her eyes, her parents were just as groomed and duped as she was. And her parents were groomed also.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing about that case. And I did an episode on that, y'all. At one point, I have no idea when, but at one point, and I actually talked to Skye Borgman, who was the director of Abducted in Plain Sight, which is the documentary about her case. I have a really hard time with that because, like, yeah, Levitt said her parents were groomed. They were, and adults get groomed too. You know, he played both of the parents romantically, and sexually, and he was definitely absolutely a charismatic figure. Like, it was definitely a coercive, fucked up relationship between him and their family.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Jen. Have a good one.
Bye, Jen. Thank you.
And you know, that's something that Yanya Lalick recently talked about in the documentary Escaping Twin Flames that's on Netflix right now. It's called Moral Injury. And it's when you leave a coercive group or relationship, and not only do you have to deal with the trauma of the things that you endured, the abuse that you suffered being in that group, or being in that relationship, but you also have to deal with, you know, the mental and emotional consequences of the fact that you were probably a perpetrator. Like, you probably, and maybe not so much in a one-on-one cult, like narcissistic relationship, but at least like within a group, you know, you have to go along with the behaviors and thoughts and whatnot of the group, or else you risk going to hell or being alone without community, being ostracized, get disconnected from your family, you know. I forget to breathe a lot when I get like you guys, again, from this site, it's got a lot of great info. Some of the signs that you might see include being very secretive about how, so this would be, I guess, if you had a child, which I don't, but I feel like a lot of people do. You know, if they're being secretive about how they're spending on their time, including when online, they have an older boyfriend or girlfriend, having new things like clothes and monies that they can't pay for, spending more or less time online or on their devices, underage drinking or drug taking, but like
I know.
I feel like that's pretty normal. I don't know.
Those are probably not just signs of grooming.
Right. Sexualized behavior, language, or an understanding of sex that's not appropriate for their age.
Mm-hmm.
Spending more time away from home or going missing for periods of times. That is Jan Broberg. Also, if you guys are familiar with the infamous book Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, he wrote Lolita after a real life case about the abduction of a little girl named Sally Horner. And then Berchtold took Lolita as a playbook, which really means he took Frank LaSalle's shit as a playbook, because Frank LaSalle kidnapped Sally Horner, also coming up in an episode. So it's like Vladimir Nabokov writing that book. Also, oh my gosh, I've heard of so many, young adult women being given Lolita to read by their groomer.
Oh, really?
Yes. I've heard of several cases of the perpetrator giving their groomee the book Lolita to read.
Oh, gosh. That's very bothersome.
Yeah. So, and then if you've been in a coercive group or cult or high control, religious group or church, and you have been groomed or seen people being groomed as adults, if you want to drop any of those in the chat, that would be awesome. Can you, that was pretty focused on children. Peggy, do you know any that are like more geared towards adults?
Focused on adults.
Okay, so I just found caage.org. Adult grooming
okay.
is when an individual, the groomer, or a group of people, the groomees, builds an emotional connection with someone they've targeted to earn trust with for the purpose of exploitation for their own motives, which can be sexual abuse, financial power kicks, even trafficking, which at the fucking day are all about power. Yes. Like somebody said, rape is not about sex, it's about power. And I was like,
that control.
Whoa. Yeah. So the classic stages of grooming for an adult, I think this is important. The groomer targets their victim. They deliberately use words, promises, and actions to gain the victim's trust. They identify a need in their victims and fulfill it or pretend to. They desensitize the victim, often slowly, so that their normal guards and filters fail. They often isolate their victims or make them complicit in wrongdoing or in their own demise. So it's like, well, shit, now I robbed the bank with this guy. Now, now I did something bad. I'm fucked. Then they often
happened to Jan's dad because he gave Berchtold a hand job in the car.
Right.
And now that's it. That's the exact thing that happened to Jan's dad.
If you guys haven't watched Abducted in Plain Sight on Netflix or Escaping Twin Flames, get it together. And then come talk to me, because I'm obsessed about talking about documentaries. So then often, but not always, the relationship becomes sexual. This is sometimes the end game for adult groomers who later disappear or ghost their targets. And groomers establish and maintain control of the situation and or victim's behavior, often using gaslighting techniques to make them doubt their own instincts.
There's a podcast series that I really like. It's called Something Was Wrong. And I think she's got like 18 seasons or something like that. But what I love about it is each story that she has, the actual person from the story tell it, and it's, I mean, words are not coming to my brain.
Oh, words are hard. Yeah, I know.
It's like narcissists, grooming, coercive control, all of this stuff, and you can, like Ashley says, she likes to see that through line, that connection through all of this stuff. And in the Something Was Wrong podcast, you can see, the narcissists, the grooming. It is the same dang playbook all the time. They do
different
it the same.
motherfucker, different day,
Mm-hmm.
Love It said Jan Broberg said she preferred the documentary that was on Peacock. So actually, interestingly, it wasn't a documentary. It was a mini series. It was called Friend of the Family.
There's both.
Oh, really?
Peacock. There is a series that's really good. And
Friend of the Family.
Jan was a producer on it.
So was her mom. They were both like very involved.
Yeah. And then there is a documentary on Peacock too.
Oh, okay.
I believe called the same thing.
Okay.
Friend in the Family.
There's a documentary and a miniseries. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I loved the miniseries. I feel dirty when I watch true crime, like fictionalized series that are based on real life. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I do it sometimes. Mm-hmm. And, like, I didn't feel great about watching Dahmer on Netflix. I was just like, this doesn't, I was good to see from the victim's point of view. It also just felt kind of exploitative. But Friend of the Family, I was actually like, okay, I can totally ethically do this because the family is actually on board. So, yeah. Yeah, so those are some of the things you can look for. Peggie, did you want to tell some of your story now that we're kind of
for sure
warmed up and people probably get the gist with grooming?
Yeah, for sure. I just want to point out really quick, Barb says in the comments, I hated all men until I had a son, and that gave me hope. And I totally understand that. I have 2 boys, and I don't know. I think they're both incredibly amazing. I think they're both very, ethical kids, and I wasn't a harsh mom. I wasn't a hard mom because all of my kids are grown up and gone. So that's why I say was. But I was very making sure that the boys understood about, consent and, making sure that both parties are okay. We're not just going to walk up on some drunk girl and be like, woo, but I did want to make sure that the boys understood their part in the responsibility of these types of things,
Yeah. Which I love. I think that men need to learn from a much younger age that emotions other than anger are totally acceptable.
Right.
Crying is not weak.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have feelings.
Yeah, and talk about them. Mm-hmm.
It's, it's again with any sexual assault victim, it was not your fault. It's not a character defect in you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, Peggie.
So Steve says I'm still not keen on men.
Yeah, I know it's rough.
Yeah, Steve, those men.
It's an uphill battle trying to trust you guys.
So my grooming story starts when I was in 1st grade. And so this is it was in the 80s. And in my brain, I've always been like, oh, it was the 80s. When we moved to a new town, when I was 6, and there was a guy that lived across the street who was an older man, and he used to let me come over whenever I wanted. He had like a big workshop, and he would let me come and hang out in his workshop with him, and I could even like take scraps of wood and build stuff if I wanted to, and I could just go over there anytime. And he was retired, so he was always home. So I would go to his house whenever, just, without notice, just go and say, hey, I'm here. Let's hang out. I was really close with all four of my grandparents. So I think in my brain, he was just like another grandparent for me. But what I didn't realize at the time was that he had been grooming me the whole time, and then as things progressed, he, definitely did try to like push the limits. Now that I can look back, and I have one of those memories where I can't remember anything that happened 2 minutes ago, but I remember my past like so clearly. I can see it very clearly, step by step in my brain. So I do see what he did now, like the steps that he took, the stages, and it was just like starting off super innocent, where I could just come and hang out with him, and he would be in his wood shop working, and I would be like banging nails into scrap wood or something like that. And then it did progress to where like, oh, let's go inside the house. Let's go inside and get a drink of milk, or let's go inside and get some cookies or something like that. And then it progressed to, sitting on his lap. And it was, to me at the time, I don't think that I understood anything that was going on, because like I also would sit on my grandpa's lap, it wasn't.
Yeah, you get fucking sat on the Easter bunny's lap and the Christmas mall Santa, which now I'm like really reconsidering. Is like, who are these people? I was the Easter bunny one year, actually, just, because I gotta, because that's what I do. It's like, oh, things are serious and I can't breathe. I'm going to make a joke. It was the worst job I've ever had. Like, you put on this head and then little hairs get in your eyes and mouth, but you can't like stick your fucking hand in your head. The kids would freak out, so you'd have to like get your handler and be like, you need to take me to the fucking like back room or whatever. And then you would like go into the like hall in the mallway and be like,
oh my gosh.
Okay.
That sounds awful.
Oh, it was terrible. But I mean, it was like $16 an hour when I was 15 or something. So I was like,
holy dang.
I know, right? So, you do what you got to do. Yes. So, Alicia said, it's so heartbreaking to hear. I'm so sorry, Peggie. And followed it up with, humor is the best coping mechanism. So thanks for validating us both, Alicia.
Yes, I know Marilyn says it all the time. She's like, I laugh at inappropriate moments. And it's like, I think a lot of us with trauma do. It's, I can handle a lot of stuff, and I can make light of a lot of things that I probably shouldn't be able to.
But well, I don't know. For me, it's like, sure, is my laughter inappropriate in this moment? Maybe, but it's like I could laugh right now, or I could just stop laughing and just like, fucking be super duper depressed and not get anything done and not be of service to anyone, and I make my therapist laugh too, because when she's like when she challenges me, I'm like, and I know what she's saying, and it's like, I hate that she's right in that moment. I'm like, ew, shut up.
Yeah. Don't call me out like that.
Yeah. So Peggie, he started bringing you and giving you milk and cookies and sitting you on his lap. And that was like first grade through how long?
I would probably say first and second grade. We moved away from that street. 'Cause we were moving. 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 We were mov when I was in second grade. So, like, I would still kind of go to his house sometimes, but the visits got much less and less. And he was married. His wife was still working full time. And I know, like, in the evenings, I would sometimes go over there to say hi, and his wife was not near as comfortable having me over. Like,
Oh, yeah, she's like, "Why is there a
yeah.
child at our house? You
She
should
was
not have a friendship."
I know, yeah. And she never, like, didn't let me come over, she always let me come over and hang out with them and stuff. I remember a couple times even, like, eating dinner with them and hanging out in the living room watching TV, but I can see now how bizarre that is. That is very weird.
It's very Jan and B.
Yeah.
Like, why are this
Like,
older
just the 2
man
of them were
and
hanging
child
out. Yeah.
friends and hanging out? Yeah, it's
He even took her clothes shopping at one point.
like, ugh. Yeah,
Mhm.
and Peggy, I know another thing that you've mentioned to me, and you're like, "Yeah, but it was the '80s," is, in our Discord, which is really fun. Let me send you guys an invite.
It's so great.
We have um a channel called The Shit List. And we had to create a yay list too, because it was really bumming us out how many people we were having to put on the shit list. It
Mhm.
was like we just kept finding out that like every fucking musician and actor and stuff we like is like a dick
Yeah.
somehow.
It's like every
And
other week something comes out about somebody.
yeah. And um so we were like, oh shit, this basically we found out that like all the fucking like great musicians of the 70s 80s were fucking teenage girls, and it's not something that we're accepting, but we're like, if we cancel everybody who fucked a teenager when they were a rock star in the 80s, like there's no good classic rock left,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So it's like so hard.
It is.
And then Peggy, you know that my watching Phoenix Rising on Max about Marilyn Manson
Yeah.
and Evan Rachel Wood just fucking broke me.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
was such a classic tale of grooming. She was like 16 or 17.
Yeah. I believe 16. Mhm.
And he was just like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of your work." And
Mm.
like, absolutely, they started off as friends. He was just somebody that she could talk to.
Yeah.
He wanted to create art with her. And um uh Alicia, I sobbed. Yeah, I probably did too.
Oh, yeah.
That shit was fucked.
Yeah.
That documentary like ruined me for a while, because then he also did what people do, and he used BDSM as an excuse to
As a
violently abuse
weapon.
her.
Mhm.
Um and somebody actually said in the chat too, I start it. SP Detroit, hey.
Oh.
Agreed. I hate the forced hugs and kisses
Yep.
to family members. You got to
Mhm.
ask my kids, and if they say no, then that's it. I love that. I
Yeah.
actually was, meeting a group of survivors recently, and in the past, I'm the type that just goes right in for a hug. And
Mhm.
I was like, "Hey, are you a hugger? I've never met you," and realized that that's not comfortable for everybody.
Right.
They were like,
Mhm.
"Actually, not really." And I was like, "Cool, like fist bump." And they later were like, "I really, really appreciate that you asked that."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think it's really important to
Acknowledge, like, what they've been through and that they might not receive touch very easily.
yeah.
Mhm.
Alicia said teach DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy in elementary school. 100%. I don't care if there's nothing wrong with you. DBT's the
Right.
shit. You should check it out.
Mhm.
American men are usually circumcised, which is violent sexual assault. It changes the brain forever, and it's not cleaner and healthier. Love it. I agree.
Wow.
We talk a
Okay.
lot about genital we actually don't talk about it at all.
We talk about
A
it every
lot
day.
at all. But you hear about female genital mutilation in some African tribes, and I and many people are staunchly against that, but we're mutilating young boys' genitals like straight out of the womb. It's
Right.
wild.
Right.
And they said most people don't consider in the USA that most men were assaulted at birth. I mean, that's so true, and I actually, unless it's like really necessary for your religion or whatever, It's also so hard though, because like in the United States, it is very common. So imagine your 10-year-old in the locker room or something, and they're getting made fun of because their pee-pee looks different,
Yeah.
Ugh, it's so hard. So
Peggie, so I one other part of my story.
Yeah.
So my mom, I don't know, a couple years later, my mom kind of did some investigative digging about this man, and she found out that he had indeed sexually abused quite a few people in the town.
Isn't that always the fucking case? That it's always like, oh, this person has a fucking track record, but nobody's paying attention.
Right. And that's one of the things that I excuse away, and I say, oh, it was just the 80s, because I went to counseling, and I went to counseling for me, but it was for other sexually abused kids. It was like group therapy, which I hated because it was not fun to talk about that in front of a group of kids. But it's like nothing ever happened to him, even if he had, I think it was upwards of like 30 people or something, like different age ranges. And it's like a serial abuser, sexual abuser in, it's a small town, a very small town. Everybody literally knows everybody. And I felt comfortable just going up to people's houses and knocking and saying, hey, can I come in and hang out? Because it was such a small community and so many people knew my mom or my sister. I did feel comfortable just going and hanging out with people. But my mom didn't tell me about that until I was an adult, though, that she had gone around and kind of investigated herself. And she was in shock, obviously, that happened. And and again, I keep just trying to rationalize it and trying to go, oh, well, it was the 80s. It's what happens. Nothing happened for the victims. And, and I felt like I got punished, though, because I had to go to this group counseling once a week. And so in my brain, I was getting the punishment, And that's another thing. That's another thing is with the justification. And no one told me this. I've just seen it on a movie since then. Like, oh, you don't want someone that old going to jail, do you? Like, you don't want somebody in their 60s or 70s going to jail. I've seen that on a movie before. And
yes, I do.
When I saw it,
Absolutely
it hit me so hard because I was like, oh my God, I bet that's what people said about this guy. I bet people were like,
sweet old man.
Yep.
Like the guy from Family Guy, like, oh, you want some candy? Just reach into my pocket. Or you want a popsicle? It's down in my basement. Like, no, you guys, no popsicles, no candy, none of the above.
Don't go in people's houses, please.
Peggie, I think this has been really great. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, like with your story or anything? I mean, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but I'm really glad that we're opening up the conversation about this, you know, because
right.
I don't think it gets talked about enough.
Right. I see Jennifer said she doesn't like being hugged. It makes her feel uncomfortable. And I am a huggy person. I'm a very like touchy, huggy person. So I've also had to learn to be like, hey, not everyone likes being touched. Stop that, you know?
Right. And Sophia said, my parents caught so much flag. Is it flag?
Probably flack.
For not having us hug people or letting us be touched since we didn't like it. Good for your parents.
That's
like,
great.
No, it's or like how people just like walk up to pregnant women and put their hands on their belly.
Oh my gosh.
What the fuck is that? I've never been pregnant and don't plan on it. So, but I see it happen and I'm like,
happens.
What is that?
That is not okay.
Sophia said, I'd literally freeze when hugged for the longest time. Yeah, which is a trauma response. Flight, fight, freeze, fawn. Love it. Statistic in Norway, 2% of boys are circumcised. 80% of rapes are committed by the 2%. That's very, very fucking interesting. I definitely want to look more into that.
Yeah. Jeez.
Alicia, thanks so much. She said sending love to those who are having a hard time with this topic. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much. It's not an easy thing to talk about.
You can just call this the bummer channel.
I know. What else can we talk about that's going to bring everyone down?
Yeah. And you know, I recently got really upset because I found out Bass Nectar, this like very famous DJ, has been grooming women between the ages of like 16 and 22 for years and having concurrent relationship, asking underage girls for nude photos, sending them around the country to go to shows and stuff. And I got in an argument with somebody because they said, so what, a 21-year-old fucked Bass Nectar, and like now that like, don't you think all the girls are like fucking rock stars and like this and that? And I'm like, yes, but that doesn't make it okay. And just because they're of legal age and consent and they're technically an adult because they can drink and smoke and go to war and all that good stuff, like, does not mean that they can't be groomed, especially in whenever there's a huge power dynamic. You know, and that's why I don't know the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case. It sounds like they were both toxic for each other. But I just do know that he has a lot more money, power, fame, and adoring fans than her. And he's best friends with Marilyn Manson. So if that doesn't tell you guys anything, I don't know what the fuck does. And somebody actually agreed with me. Thank you. They said, well, SP Detroit said stick with Hall & Oates. Got to go back to work. Nice. Good guys. Love it said Marilyn Manson is evil. Can't believe how many defenders he has. Yeah, and that's the fucking thing is
he has
the amount of people that come to his defense, the amount of hatred that Evan Rachel Wood has received from standing up against him.
Disgusting.
I love her, Rachel. If you're listening or watching, you're probably not, but if anybody you know is, you're like my hero and my sparkly angel, and I'm so proud of you for coming forward with that story because it's really fucked because most of the time victims won't be believed or they'll be blamed. And I know that's like a really bummer, pessimistic thing to say. It's just sad because it's like where we still are in society.
It is. Yeah.
And grooming and sexual abuse and stuff is like way coercion, you know, in groups and narcissistic relationships is all too fucking common. And you know, survivors really need to start getting stood up more for, because I'm so sick of the fucking narrative that like defend the perpetrators because they still make great art, or because they're too old to go to jail, or because you don't know what you actually saw. Fuck that, and fuck that. If you see something, say something.
Absolutely.
And what's a high note we can end on?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, something I'm really excited that Peggie and I are going to be doing soon. We have been talking about since Sound of Freedom, since it came out in theaters this fucking summer. We've been digging deep into Tim Ballard, his connections to the Mormon Church, Operation Underground Railroad, the producers and the stars of the film, how it's fucking totally misinformed and derailed the entire fucking anti-trafficking everything. That movie was one of the worst things to happen to trafficking victims in a long fucking time.
Because it was made by like conservative Christians, there's a lot of mega churches that like mass bought out tickets. So it looked like there were full theaters.
Angel donors. It was like, oh, fucking Sound of Freedom is #1 at the box office right now because we did crowdfunding so you could buy tickets for other people. I'm sorry, that feels a lot like evangelism.
It
like,
is.
Hey, I bought you this ticket to a movie about God. I'm good, thanks. I mean, I know it's like not about God, but like, what's the hidden message? Also, Peggie, we could also talk more about Jan Broberg's story or Lolita. And Peggie and I are super excited to talk about the
Sound of Freedom.
Yep, all that stuff. I feel like I wanted to put something up back on the screen, but I can't find it. Wait, hold on. There we go. Let me make a banner.
So Ash and I and Fallon, we finished, we did the series on fundamentalism and Shiny Happy People. And that's a 6-episode series that's on the podcast.
Yes.
The first 2 episodes are interviews with guests. One, Lindsay Williams from Shiny Happy People. And then Catherine Spearing from
Tears of Eden. And Uncertain Podcast.
Right, Uncertain Podcast. And then the other 4 episodes are, each episode kind of takes apart a little bit of what's going on in the Shiny Happy People episodes. And then I liked what they did is Ashley and Fallon and myself, we took something from the episode and then made sure that we learned all about that. So like child abuse, the Joshua Generation, TLC,
which is the scariest shit ever. If you guys don't know about it.
Joshua Generation is terrifying.
We should do an episode just on that one day.
Oh yeah, it is terrifying, the things that I learned. But
we looked into the Quiverful movement. If you guys know about Andrea Yates drowning her 5 children in a bathtub years and years and years ago, she was a part of the Quiverful movement. Her husband was told, don't leave her alone. He was like, I'm not going to have her depending on me. And then, but that's never recognized in her case, that she was a part of a fundamentalist sect.
Not at all.
That was all about pumping out babies.
It just is. She's crazy,
So, a few documentaries I highly recommend. Amazon Prime, Shiny Happy People, about the Duggars and Christian fundamentalism. What else did I mention? Oh, Scouts Honor on Netflix is really good so far. I'm only halfway through it. So at the Boy Scouts of America. Can
you hear that?
I feel like I recommended a couple other documentaries, but I watched so many all over the place. But thank you guys so much for coming. I am going to try to keep things to like an hour and a half or less so that the replays are not intimidating. And I will be I'll be going live in an hour again, just to start my little healing from complex trauma segment. It'll probably be just a short one. It's kind of me doing a bit of a video diary about how complex trauma affects me on a daily basis, how I'm healing and recovering from it. And I would love it to be like Marilyn's streams, Coffee, Cults, and Crafts, where, you know, we, in her morning musings, she talks a lot to the audience, and I love that engagement. So I would love to talk to you guys. You know, sometimes during the episodes or interviews, I'm not as engaged with the chat because I don't want to take attention away from the guest. But in that one, it'll be pretty much just me like talking to y'all. So if you want to come shoot the breeze, I'll be back around in an hour. Thank you so much, Peggy, for coming.
Thank you.
And if you, me. Yeah, of course. And if you guys loved this, or you love what I've been doing over here, then I think that you will definitely dig the podcast. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'm going to drop it right here in the comments, and then I'm going to put it on a banner real quick to put up. And yeah, go follow the podcast. Make sure to subscribe and, you know, all that stuff. And make sure to subscribe to my channel, please. And hit that like button, all that good stuff. And see you in a while.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.